Major.
Yeah, they do. We know DC already made it through. SSG are screaming right now and getting excited for this match to begin. And I mean, yeah, they've been fighting tooth and nail since the very beginning, and they've been making that quote-unquote lower bracket run, if you will, going to best of 3 series, and just recently beating out a team like NIP 2-0 to get here. It's pretty good.
Glass bans aplenty today.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, Glass is a strong operator. I've been saying this for a long time.
Okay.
Glass is good. A Ying ban is also great. High prevalency in all the matches that we have seen. If not banned, picked quite extensively. You can bring those secondary hard breach gadgets or smokes. You've got the Candelas available. Good primary utility, good secondary utility, and a suppressed gun that can hit you about 70 times and you have no idea where it's
Last ban, James, quick. Last ban, what is it going to be?
Kite.
Solus, Azami. Under the pressure, man. I can't perform. Let's hope that Bleed and SSG do a better job of performing under pressure. But yes, Azami Valkyrie ban, nothing too uncommon. The lack of Azami is going to make it really hard to extend those holds into CCTV. But of course, you've still got your mirror for those crazy good power positions back on the site or in the 90 hallway. And let's not forget Solus as well. So good for clearing out those pre-placed drones, forcing the attack to take a little bit more time and resources to take that map control if they're looking for the vertical nade play.
Yeah, I mean, I think these first couple of rounds really come down to who's going to set kind of the pace and kind of like, are we going to go for a quick border or a slow border? Because I do believe the attackers, they have so much control early on. You can do the blitz executes that are really, really quick. You can go for the very slow, fishing for kills with grenades downstairs, for example, and Bleed. They're a team that, I don't want to say they play methodical Siege, but I don't want to say they play like Cyclops either, where it's just completely chaos. They play this kind of mixed style where they can change things around as they kind of, you know, see fit, so to speak. But I'm curious what style they go for here on border.
Yeah, well, Bleed are a team that love to get up in the face of their opponent. They love to play the mental game, and that has really netted them a lot of their wins thus far. Of course, they have been dubbed the NA Killers after beating M80 and Sonics. However, a grueling loss at that to Dark Zero 7-8 just yesterday may have put that to bed. I think Space Station really could be the nail in the coffin for this narrative of the NA Killers for Bleed. But on elimination game, let's see if Bleed have what it takes, have the experience to make it to the main stage for the first time in their career.
We just had a Middle Eastern team get up there, giving representation to a region that we've never seen play in front of a live audience. If you want to split hairs, since I guess Southeast Asia became its own region, they've never officially had a team there. But I mean, obviously, Aerowolf made it.
Elevate.
Yeah, we've had teams compete from that region before, so you often just have to resort to semantics for this kind of thing. But I mean, we love semantics.
Well, it'll be one of the first times we ever see a New Zealand player on the stage. Turdster, of course, not being from Southeast Asia, but down in Oceania. The rest of this roster looking poised to start exploding onto a bit of map control. As we said, CCTV a little bit easier to take, Nick, with that lack of Azami, but Ashton will not give it up without a bit of a fight.
Yeah, the pace is so quick here. I'm sure they haven't fought one another just yet, but they're so close. Hoven inside our break room, Aspie outside the CCTV window. If they want to go for this first engagement, they are primed and ready for it, but they want that last bit of intel before they go for it.
They're not going to give it up easy at all either. You have to work hard to establish control inside of security. Hoven is there. Ashen will see the nade fly on out. And not just a talented player, but Ashen has been a big voice for this team to keep SSG mentally in the matchup. This is a vibes team, as we often talk about it in North America. Ashen's gonna have to motivate from the bench, though, as Hoven starts things off with the very first kill and has managed to tackle break room and cleared out that security portion as well.
That's how you play Fingam. You go in, you get the job done, and you get out and hold those angles. Again, they go for a wave, they push up, drones come out, reset, rinse, repeat now. You get security control, that's step number 1. Second step seems to be this office archives-oriented push here. Not the most common play to go for, but it might just work. Falls to Solus is downstairs below, could be a problem later on, and I don't think Bleed, they have intel that he's lurking downstairs.
We will have to be proactive, however. J90, what a great setup with this shield and long lines of sight. However, Hoven does start to move on forward, and he could be the difference maker for exploding onto this office and fountain area. Now, Reaps does not have any Selmas remaining, so that mirror window and fountain should remain intact as he looks to go on forward.
Well, there's the damage being done as both teams will trade back and forth. Bleed coming out ahead in a game of inches. Now with Diffuser in hands of Reaps, who's been simply phenomenal most of this tournament. He's shaken off of his position because the Solus down below has not been given enough respect. You gotta hunt down the last player as Fultz will see a never-ending stream from Bleed as he hops on, but the case is in a position where I don't think he can stop it in time. He's got multiple targets to focus on, but just not enough damage to be done as Bleed takes the first round.
And they set the pace, right? They go quick at the beginning, they get the opening kill, and they don't go for a conventional, let's go Armory, you know, that's expected of us. No. Let's change it up. Go for that office, archives, execute, but things they get bad really, really quickly. They don't have enough Harpies to open up the sidewalls itself, and they're forced to brute force their way through the bomb site, but they forget or don't have intel on Fultz downstairs on the Solus. And it almost cost them the round, but a great mid-round adaptation that only took 4 seconds to realize, and they just went for that downstairs play.
That's the thing that we've noticed about Bleed. Not only are they aggressive, but they are so quick at flipping that switch. For a team that doesn't have as much experience as world champion Fultz or a lot of this, the rest of this space station roster, Bleed have really shown an immense maturity at not only playing aggressively, but knowing when to play passively and knowing on a dime when to change tack, right? Okay, Solus below, we have that information, doesn't matter. No sweat, no worries, no nerves. Move that plan spot over to the hard floor and send 1 or 2 players down below to distract and hopefully kill that Solus. So really prompt, really nice stuff already in the first round from Bleed.
Yeah, I mean, it is so impressive, and I mean, we all know, well, I say all, I know Mentalist. You know, he goes back a few years, played on some pretty good rosters, right? Fnatic, for example, but Invictus Gaming, but when you have a new roster in Bleed, when you're doing something new, it can be hard to kind of figure out what's your role in all this. Who's going to lead the team internationally? Who's got the experience? Who's got the nerve, so to speak? And I don't know the exact system that Bleed they function under, but whatever it is, I'm very impressed by it so far, because no matter what big names they're up against, they don't just roll over. They always fight into those like late rounds, overtime, or at the very least, they always put up a really good fight.
I mean, from a diversity standpoint, there's a part of me that would like to see an APAC team on the main stage. I know we've got somebody... I know we've got a little bit of a biased actor here. Not exactly the most reliable narrator when it comes to the way that Bleed likes to play. That's fine. You can get excited all you want.
Not the most reliable narrator. How dare you?
The bias is dripping.
Turt's gonna come and shut you right down, just like he's shut out hot and cold. Great work from Bleed as well, dismantling this fountain position. That mirror window completely nullified. Same can be said for the mirror on Armory. No wall denial whatsoever. However, SSG do have a reply, taking down Hoven.
Yeah, the adaptation, and they're just gonna go for it. Take the fight them. Reaps, it's both?
No bias. No bias at all. It's like the SI Grand Finals. He's losing his mind in the second round.
Mate, did you see that flick? Reaps is
That was
nuts.
great. I mean, that was just chaos, right? It's down to 2 versus 2 all of a sudden. Bleed, they pick apart the defense. They open up both mirror windows. Asher with a mute jammer in his pocket still, by the way, despite the walls getting opened up. And then SSG say, okay, we lost our stable positions of the mirror windows. Let's just run in towards the attackers and retake the map control that we had lost earlier. And even the score and the man count down to that 2 versus 2. With Diffuser's down on the ground with a minute to go. And Bleed gotta make a tough decision. Go for kills or pick up Diffuser and hit the side.
I think SSG may have done enough here on this drone. They bled a lot of time, no pun intended, and they took a lot of picks with them as well to the grave. Like you said, Diffuser has been taken down. Mentalist very thankful to have a DMR in this position where he has a few more options. He can open up these hatches. The question is, where are these remaining SSG players? I don't think Bleed have a lot of information, though there are a lot of pre-placed drones already out on the board. Asvi and Mentalist will have to look for a way to push that Diffuser down.
I mean, the entirety of those track stingers were used on the main portion of the stairs leading into that main doorway. You're expecting somebody to want to flank you through Workshop. Now you just put it in a position where Ashen can play by this Workshop door. Yeah, he's got a cutoff that he can't run through, but you've effectively forced him into a spot where here's the engagement. Last track stinger to go down. Mentalist drops, and he will follow up on that noise. Attempting the plant as he doesn't have enough time. This should be an easy closeout as he sees the one player, and it's super shorty from Forest on the ground. Space Station answer back in round number 2.
Yeah, and Ashen fired up as we all expect. A big round from Space Station, really winning that roam game, forcing the late 2v2, and then just waiting and looking for those opportunities which were gifted to them on that hatch position. I think really well read from Space Station.
Yeah.
They knew that in that mid to late round, they didn't need to get over aggressive because Bleed have to do the problem solving, and they were likely to make a mistake or at least present some kind of a window for Space Station to capitalize upon.
That's the thing, because like SSG right now, it's like a merge with like the former SSG players, or like former SSG players, and then Astralis as well. So they're kind of like this half Astralis, half Space Station, and they've merged their playstyle where they can advance into their opponents, but the discipline they have from like 2v2s and 3v3s, understanding the strategical side of Siege, where sometimes doing nothing is doing something. Simply the act of staying alive and not risking yourself to get shot down from a faraway angle and nade from below, etc. That's all you need, because as long as your members alive, the attackers know that they can't just run you down, they can't just walk into the building, they gotta worry about angles being covered, the crossfires being set up, etc. And SSG, one of the strongest teams in my opinion in those 2v2s.
SSG have had quite an incredible run this tournament. While they had a fairly easy opening game against Alpha Atheris from Latin America, they were pushed to the wire by Bliss. They won 8-7, qualifying for the Swiss phase, and immediately lost their first 2 games. They had a pretty tough draw. BDS and W7M, not always gonna be a lot of fun playing against those 2 behemoths, both major winners, of course. Then they took down Scars, great revenge story. Then they took down NIP, a beautiful rematch of the SSG's championship back in 2020. Now they have to deal with the up-and-comers from APAC to earn their spot on that main stage. And I think it is possible, thanks to particularly the confidence they would have gained from those comeback games.
Yeah. You can beat big names previously in this tournament, you know you can beat them right now is when it matters the most. And again, the pace right now from Bleed not seeming to slow down anytime soon. Quick to E stairs, quick to that 90 hallway, pressuring CCTV window is Hoven on the beast as well. Grim, they're looking for this pick, they got the red pings. Is it free?
Oh, what's this from Reaps? He starts to move on in. He is taken down. I thought he got down for a second, but I think Ashen might have been able to steal his way out of it. However, he does overpeak onto Hoven. So SSG can be pretty happy with that engagement, particularly taking down Reaps. Good cover. He almost came too late, but that player right in Armory helped back up Ashen, and he doesn't go down without a fight.
No numbers equalized, though, as Mentalist eliminating J90. It's the Kaid no more. Imagine at this point the Electric Claws are down and likely on that back wall from Workshop leading into the bathroom. Would be my suspicion, at least. Actually, no, it looks like most of those walls are actually completely opened up. So, anybody's guess? Maybe on the hatches.
I was gonna say, this could be the good old SG hatch strat where you reinforce the hatches, and if the attackers take top wall control, they can't necessarily get them open up. Actually, for the jail wall,
One on jail
right
wall,
there,
yeah.
That was one of those claws went. And again, I said earlier, in the 2v2s and 3v3s, SSG don't understand when to play aggressive, when to play passive. Right now, they're waiting for the first move happening from Bleed. They got the bomb side, they got vert control, and if Bleed don't move a muscle, why should SSG? They know the intel that they have to work with, and Force and Solus can tell them if they're going to be planting and where that plant goes down as well.
Well, it is a very similar story to what we saw on that Teller's Archives defense, right, Pangu?
Yeah.
SSG, no, they don't have to make a move. They're once again looking for the opportunity that Bleed can present, especially vacating that side. Bleed are unlikely to find a free pick.
We've got that Solus still on the board, which for me is the greater issue if I'm Bleed, because we saw how pivotal it was in round number 1, even if it didn't ultimately win them at all. Hot and Cold surviving, Turds to not, Nitro Cell goes out. It's Turds to now last alive as all of them get dropped.
That was pretty nuts. To Hot and Cold's credit.
It was good. I mean, the thing is, right, you're thinking, oh, he's kind of loud in our ears. Imagine if you're Hot and Cold, right? You're sitting next to him with the in-ears wired in. You can only hear Ashen screaming into your ears. You're like, buddy, chill out, man.
I got a question for you. How much when you're playing at LAN can you actually hear the person sitting next to you, not through the headphones, but like just through the air sitting next to you, especially when they're screaming that loud? You hear them twice.
That's the thing. When you're playing in this setting, phase 1, phase 2, before like the main event with fans in the crowd, you hear most things. Like if you're playing against SSG as Bleed players can also hear like a muffled scream in the background, right? And it's why these players, they get so loud. It's that mental warfare upon one another where, hey, SSG win, get as loud as you can. Let Bleed know how you really feel and try and kind of throw them off their game, if you will.
I think we've seen more of that this event than potentially any event we've ever seen before. Of course, Canadian is very known for it. Ashen at his debut major is making quite a reputation for himself. Even players like Bibu and Renshiro, who you wouldn't typically expect it from, have started to really rile up, and sometimes it has a positive effect, sometimes it doesn't. For example, look at M80, right? Bodega was one of the loudest, if not the loudest people, and he's not even playing in the damn server, right? It certainly didn't help him, but it can be a double-edged sword, and especially for Bleed, I think when this is your debut and you're playing up against names like Faults, like Hot and Cold, like Forest Gen, there's something that clicks in the mental. But apparently something has clicked for Turd this round is he's already taken down the loudest guy in the server.
It's 2 rounds in a row where this Doc experiment, if we want to call it, has not netted anywhere near the results that I imagine SSG could have possibly hoped for. And yeah, I mean, this is what? This is the 3rd round now where Ashen has been one of, if not the first to die, in the first 2 for SSG. Now, obviously, his role means that he's going to be at the forefront of most of these assaults on attack and also roaming on defense. But you cannot be forfeiting this advantage every single round.
No, you can't. The thing is, the domino effect kind of takes place here because now there's no cross off the break room players. All of a sudden, he's very much under fire. That's Faults now. Nade below, Asher on the door, but Faults somehow finds a kill, survives the nades, and can just fall back as well.
This is utter domination from SSG. As I say that, there is something to walk away for Bleed. 1 pick, 2 picks might be a numbers equality that they can capitalize upon. But SSG are really forcing these early engagements. They want to make it so Bleed are not in these 5v5s in the late round.
And I get that. I mean, it's border. Bomb sites themselves relatively weak compared to other maps. So if attackers can get there with 5 players alive against 5 defenders, they tend to win more often than not. When you play ranked on border, that's how that plays out. So here in pro play, you extend out pretty wide, pretty far, and you play around the entirety of the map. East stairs, break room, CCTV, but also, of course, the bomb site itself. Turd now, looking through the side window, fishing for a kill, can't find any as of yet because SSG again, they know they're gonna have to move and take those risky positions. They're once again waiting for Bleed to make the first move for the 4th round in a row.
It's a bit of a game both directions as well, as a lot of these Bleed players are simply paying fairly close attention to the site, holding fairly passive angles and hoping that someone will push. A few of these objectives opening up these walls are proving difficult, but J90 perfectly times his swing, takes down Reaps. And there is no reply whatsoever from Bleed. J90 now on a really nice angle, and he will find a second, not a third, but Turtsa once again in a 1v3. And look at this from Bleed. Knowing that they have the Solus on the board, they fully forfeit control. No C4 available, but it should be very easy now for SSG to cover this in the post plan.
Turtsta's got that diffuser up above, making a ton of noise. Let's not talk about how simply loud that is. I don't know if there's an angle here. Yes, there is. Forrest to get it done. How is your voice held up? That's the question I have. It's like, I feel like I drink a single glass of water, cast 1 best of 1, and I'm the Sandman. I'm like, I can't speak. And some of these players are just screaming nonstop.
The impressive thing is if you're Ashen, he died in the first 10 seconds of the round. He sits there watching the entire time, and then he just pops off like, good job, boys, 4 versus 5, we got it! And like, supportive cast, right? I mean, you gotta support the boys and they're doing well. And again, SSG, before this current roster, they're known to be a team on defense that are really good at setting up kind of like the puzzles the attackers to solve, right? The strategical layers, the front mirror windows, the fallback second layer, and then the bomb set itself, and then the backup plan. Drop downstairs with 2 members, you got the solos, you got at least 1 impact in pocket, and play off of that. Bleed. How have they been playing this tournament, James? Do you feel like they can actually deal with that kind of playstyle? Because so far in border attack, it hasn't been the best performance from them so far.
Yeah, well, I think SSG have a really good read of pulling back and forcing Bleed to problem solve in that mid to late round, looking for those opportunities. Now, Bleed do need to make some kind of adaptation here, whether it's bringing more straightforward tools for the job. For example, Reeves couldn't breach a wall, so he had to get creative instead of just EMPing it or clearing it with some nades or something. So I think Bleed could go with that option, looking to go head on, or they could look for a more execute heavy strategy like we've seen from a lot of teams. However, no Ying, no Glaz, a little bit harder to do with those banned out.
That's the thing. Operator bans play a big part in how these maps they play out, and yeah, I mean, you got the Blades, you got the Munch if you want to get fancy with it, but the Ying and the Glaz can and typically are the front runners on border because of how open the map is and how much they enable those operators to do a lot of damage. Mid-round's been tough, but the early game for Bleed has been excellent. Usually to get the first opening pick uncontested or a trade at the very best case, which favors the attack inside, so it's not all bad for Bleed.
It does seem like the read is to play with the Nomad and look for this aggression. It works for one, but not for the second. A good trade. However, Hot and Cold took a lot of damage for his trouble. I wouldn't be super happy if I'm SSG, but at least for them, they have peeled back one of the top fraggers for Bleed.
Ashen is still alive. Huge.
Yeah.
Huge at this point in the round. I looked up to see J90 on that, and I was like, oh, I didn't just cast her Curse Ashen. Playing a bit more of a sheltered role here. Now, with this being a Bathroom Teller's defense, there's a heavy extension out to this customs part of the map. Teams don't really like to hold customs because of how quickly it can fall, right? You lose jail, you lose that stock portion. They can even just walk in front door and start to pressure you. And it's a bomb site that has shown up here, but really doesn't show up much at all. I'd be shocked if we see it in this match. So to see SSG extending out so aggressively there as they have is not abnormal, but it's very risky.
No, it is, but I think the fact that they notice that Bleed don't really play EMPs all that often, and then the kite is open, they kite the jail wall, they force out 2 grenades from Aspie, all the grenades, in fact, to open up a single wall. And it's like, even if SSG were to fall back immediately, they still burn a ton of utility, so value is found there, just off the rip, no effort needed from SSG, and now again, the mid-round, Bleed, they're droning, they're looking, they're scouting, but they're not finding anything.
Yeah, I think Bleed have suffered a little bit from looking to counter aggro in the early round instead of looking to hunt map control. Now, fortunately for them, they do take down Ashen. I believe Hot and Cold is still at large on the top floor, and if they can secure the final bullet required to kill him, then this round definitely opens up for the attacking side. But outside of that, we have seen SSG win 2v2s on this bomb site before, and with Forrest popping off like he has, I wouldn't be surprised if he can do so again.
No, I mean, it's anybody's game at this point, though the numbers obviously favoring SSG should give you a bit of relief if you're a fan of one of the remaining NA teams. The other one obviously already qualified at this point. Nearsightedness, not really an issue for Aspie as the case is getting down. And Hoven doing his best for coverage. It works out. Mentalist dropped. Hoven slaughtering Hot and Cold. No vault through the lobby will be done. Now Aspie backing up as a Nitro cell from J90 will potentially open some things up. But SSG gets pummeled by the gridlock in the post plant. And Bleed prevents Space Station from putting 4 together. It's still SSG's lead, but only by a single round.
Surprising outcome in that round. It didn't look all that free, but Bleed, they got more intel than we do. They were like, guys, no one's covering this plant position. There's no one for the deny. C4 is all the way out in customs, you know, way off the bomb site itself. We can just kind of stick this. And it sounded very simple, it looked very simple, but it was right. They got a free plant down with no counter answer from SSG.
And as we move into the final round of the half, the final defense for Space Station, the question is begged of whether this is like a win condition for Bleed, right? Do they need a third round, or is it 2-4 a comebackable situation on their defensive side? Now, I would typically say Border is an attacking sided map. However, the stats, believe it or not, for Stage 2, conflict with that. It's 55% defensive favored holistically across the entire of BR6. I think the game is in that state at the moment with Fenrir coming in, Solus and Azami being so prevalent. And believe it or not, those operators, Fenrir and Solus, have come through. They've been unbanned. The Mirror as well. They've been prevalent every single round, and SSG are using them so well. And I think that does lead me to believe that the defense maybe could be a little favored here, especially with that Ying band out. But I think this is one of those games that's just going to go down to the round by round, which team's got that momentum and who's winning in these tight 2v2 late rounds.
I always believe as a former player myself that when you're starting a best-of-3 series and it's the first, match of the day for you as a team, starting defense is favorable no matter where you are, because you get to set up your default strats that you practiced and prepared for, and then the attackers, they got to problem solve around them. So Bleed getting 2, maybe even the 3rd round in the first map in the best-of-3 series, SSG's map pick, by the way, as well. On top of that, is actually a pretty good start statistically for them, but they gotta keep this composure that they've been having on attack on the defensive side as well. They get this final chance, can tie things up, and it's a bit of a slower start here for Bleed, right? Normally, by now, someone's died. Injury kill has happened, they're in the building, etc. But right now, both Ashen is playing further back, and Bleed also taking more time to make sure they drone everything.
Well, if anything, I think it's SSG who are setting that early round pace, and that's because they're not peeking. They're not contesting CCTV. They've actually fallen off their position inside of Office now. SSG are looking to peel back the layers of their defense and bleed out time. take that away from the attack so that in the late round, they will once again have these 2v2s, 4v4s, favorable situations for the defense. And this bomb site is yet to be cracked by the attack in this game. So I think SSG are sitting pretty, but it really comes down to whether Bleed can crack through this Fountain and Archives and Armory defense.
I was going to say, I mean, Fountain is their big focal point at the moment. And, well, they've got the job done with the nade at hand. Aspie, who was fantastic in the previous round, keeps it going this time. Joined by the supporting cast now of Reaps as well. And SSG are outnumbered by 2. So over a minute to go, but the 5v3 is often considered the most dangerous lead in Rainbow Six for good reason. And even though Aspie gets on the board again, SSG gets 2 to put it in a 3v2, and they can ride out the remainder of the round with Ashen and Fultz.
But the thing is, number is still favoring Bleed. They're trading successfully upstairs. That's the most important thing. Get the first pick, then keep trading, and you'll end that, chaos upstairs with a one-man advantage. Bombset is downstairs, though. Both members of SSG are playing above, so they can deny the bombset entirely. There are smokes available from turret. But the issue is, Fultz got the Solace.
I think that Bleed know nobody's on site. The danger here is being baited in and allowing SSG to play for plant denial. Final round of the half. Fultz is looking for that diffuser. The EMP comes out. That's genius. And now Fultz must deny the plant, but Hoven's taken down. Ashen all up to the world champion, who can't quite hack it. And even half, and the Southeast Asians are extremely happy about that result.
That's smart.
It's not often sexy how you see an EMP get. No. Where you think, oh, you took something off the wall.
No.
But that EMP was perfect.
It was.
They suspected there was a Solace upstairs because of the fact that every single round that we have seen SSG lose early man count, they immediately pivot and put the Solace in a position for the post plant, whether it be on that top floor or down below. And there's only so many spots that you could potentially be at as a Solace. If you're in a vulnerable position on attack, you know where that defender's gonna come from.
Yep.
Take a guess. Bleed, maybe a bit more than just guesswork, I'm not certain, but God, that was so hot.
No, it was. I mean, the nade here was... He's feeling it,
I feel like Dev Marta in round 2 right now.
I mean, it was a great utility round from Bleed. The grenade to start things off, the MP to end it as well. And I was sitting there like, you said it, James. What if they get baited in, right? Oh, start planting. Oh, Solace is there. They shut it down again. The EMP is such a phenomenal way to just be like, you know what? We have an answer. We saved one EMP for this exact scenario. Or we just happen to have one spare in pocket. Either way, the great look. They get the 3-3 and they set themselves in a great position to actually take this border map.
Oh, wow. Very pacey E1D from Ashen. I like that. It's a bit of an ego move, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
hey,
kind of
we may be rushing right now. I mean, we're still in spawn.
Yeah.
The round has just started, but you don't know that.
Apply the pressure early. Keep him guessing. Oh, if he had fired a bullet. You see, the reasons like that is why I hated to watch back the VOD as when I was a player myself, because you're like, could have gotten a free kill if I pressed left click. But you don't know that in the server, right? You're not going to wallbang using a window every chance you can.
You miss every shot you don't take, Nick.
That is very, very true, however. So just, one tap, anything you aim your crosshair at, and maybe sometimes you'll get a kill.
Well, first half, in terms of blood drawn at the very beginning, Bleed doing an excellent job of it. Same follows for this round. On defense, playing so aggressively with 2 picks coming in very early for Bleed. Space Station eliminating Aspie, who's been a superstar through that first half and looked to be on the prime position to repeat it now in that round. Good enough to kill some time and take some bodies down with him. Now SSG must pivot, being down 1 body.
Poor Jin, I know, just getting some debris in his face holding that angle, but he's all right. And this has forced SSG into a very awkward position. They're down a player, they got 4 grenades in pocket, but no one can really drone for them to activate those grenades. They're going to gamble and guess here, but they got 2 coming at one time. And
wow!
Yeah, one doesn't do it, but both, they secure it.
It's funny, you could see the first one detonate a moment before the second.
Yeah.
He only took a tiny amount of damage, but the fact that there was 2 meant there was certain coverage. If they came out separately, a player could have, in theory, dodged both.
Yeah.
But yeah, perfect simultaneous grenades from SSG. I really like that.
It's a great pick, honestly, and Hot and Cold is doing the drone work right there. Outside the building, still classic support plan. This is a great play from Reaps. Very small thing, reinforcing off that back fountain position. So, like, basically making the bomb site a little bit simpler, but safer, and just denying SSG some of the pathways in towards the bomb site itself to enable those 3 guns to be aimed in the same direction to establish those crossfires.
Well, at this point, Space Station not with that same level of confidence that we had seen previously. Though it is much easier to sit pretty on defense and not really have to move too much muscle. Reaps expecting that castle barricade to blow sky high. Tries to take advantage of SSG's lack of knowledge. It doesn't work out. Impact goes one way, Nade the other. And they win the duel with Forrest sweeping through Turnstile. Hoven, SSG successful in their first attack.
They brute force it. I mean, they just run into the door. And the thing is, Reeves read the position well, right? He figured, Sledge gonna rotate, open up the window, I'm gonna get the free kill. But SSG also read the situation where one person holds, Sledge opens, and they actually get the kill. If that had gone the other way for Reeves, I think that round turns out in Bleed's favor.
Yeah, very much so, but I think you have to credit SSG. It's not on Reeps, it's on SSG for having that read. A lot of players would just sledge that open, but it was the Finker who wanted to play that position, and he got the sledge to come over, which meant the Finker was covering as the window opened. And it's a minute difference we're seeing between both of these defenses from Bleed and from SSG. On the latter, you're seeing SSG always on their defenses in the late round, playing passive, playing for retake, not looking to give up any picks. In contrast, Bleed are always looking for opportunities to get aggressive and make picks. And I think SSG's read that really well, which has made this quite a challenge now for Bleed. They have to second guess themselves. Look, our aggression worked well in the early round, but not in the late round. Does that mean we don't play aggressive at all? Does that mean that we keep playing aggressive? Does it mean we double down? Or does it mean that we have to change our play style mid-round?
And that's one of the best things you can do in this game of Siege, is like make your opponent question what they should be doing, and if anything, force them out of their comfort zone. Now, all of a sudden, they're playing heavy utility, right? The Fenrir, the Castle, the Frostware. Sure, they still have decent guns with them, but it's about the setup upstairs right now, so things have changed.
Can I just say as well that during the prep phase, Turd managed to find 3 of SSG's drones, and on Border, a map which you can really utilize quick map control if you have some good drones, it's going to force SSG to get a little bit more creative, and you have to have a lot more confidence. When you don't have drones, you're going to have to do a lot more dry peeking, and that can be a real challenge. What on earth is this from Action?
Gets the passport wall here.
Oh, that's cheeky.
Yep. The Monty as well. This is a little bit of different attack here, right?
Turns just said, I'm getting the hell out of here. Sees him right away, and okay, I'm leaving.
Like, what are you gonna do? Monty's walking at you, walls opened up, and this is the thing, they pick apart the first floor immediately, but Bleed got that like vertical advantage. They got top 4 control still. Monty is strong, yes, but not against verticality. So SSG, they're forced to walk back upstairs now, spend more time to pick that apart.
So he's still going, by the way. Like, Forrest has not been slowed down at all. This is the slowest, what is it, the unstoppable force? This is the slowest unstoppable force that we've seen at this point.
The thing is, this is like a train that goes to nowhere, because he might have been unstoppable, but he hasn't gone any closer to the bomb site, and I think that Bleed still have some really solid off-site positions that SSG have failed to clear out so far, and it's really on SSG to start to get that hammer to crush into the anvil.
Yeah, and there's no grenade downstairs either, so those yellow pings and forest, they don't lead anywhere either. Sure, Fool's almost up the armory wall, but it's gonna be a pathway in, but the Monty's not in that position. He's in Beavers instead.
Saw some juggling of those dread mines as well, so the Monty will be obscured for a moment. The entirety of armory's been cleared out.
He's gone. Yep. It's like a magic trick. You finally get in the building and the Roma has disappeared. Reeps has gone down. I'm not sure where that is. Oh, hot and cold.
J90, by the way, if the sounds of the gun are any indication, that was the para firing away as Reeps was dropped. Now it's Houghton inside of Customs, waiting for another pre-fire, but Hoven dances around it. Mentalist has died. He's having a really rough first map. The remainder of Reeps found as well. 40 seconds, Hoven greeting the Monty as he drops and just obliterating Mountainside. 3v2 for SSG. That becomes a 3v1. As that's good work being put in by J90. The flank comes in from Turnstile, but J90 has a particularly good round. Damn. SSG wins 2 in a row. Their lead stretches as they're up 5-3.
Sometimes the strength of the Monty is not the Monty itself, but rather the fact that all the attention goes upon him. So they're all worried about the Monty. Where is he? We're gonna run away, you know, hide, etc. But there are still 4 guns playing around it, supporting it as well. And I think Forrest did a great job at saying, I am not the main character, but I want them to think that I am. And they forced them back, quick map control, and an off-pace collapse to get those early kills in the middle of the round. And Bleed being down 2 rounds now, 3-5, I'm gonna call their tactical timeouts.
I wonder if we can hear anything that Bruce is saying.
Everything is good. Everything good. Just the late round. Make sure the late round is doing the right thing. That's the only thing. Only thing you need. Okay.
My understanding is that Bruce is less of a strategic coach and more of like a leadership management figure for the team. I could be wrong on that, but
Let's go.
Let's go!
Energy.
I'd be pretty confident that Mentalist is a lot of the leadership figure. He is by far the most experienced player on this team. But that's not to say that a lot of these other players can't be full of ideas as well. And it's funny, Nick, because it feels like Bleed have identified what we've been talking about for a while now, which is that it's that late round where Bleed have really suffered.
Yeah.
I think that comes down to SSG's read. Like, that was the case on SSG's defense. They knew how to pull back, let Bleed into sight, and then play those late rounds. And it's kind of a similar story on attack, right? After the initial kerfuffle, which I believe is the technical term,
Okay.
then Bleed do struggle a little bit at converting into an execute.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you said, like, leadership and experience, right? Mentalist is the oldest player on the roster, and he's, I believe, 23, which is very young, right? So you have players that are, like, 19, 18, 20 on this roster, first international experience, right? And I feel like it must put a lot of pressure on Mentalist's shoulders, because if you start losing these rounds and players are getting a bit timid, a little bit quiet, you gotta be like, guys, like, it's a best of 3 series. We got this. Come on, like, it's their map. We did great. We got 3 rounds right now. We're down in 2 rounds, etc. It's not the end of the world. But when you're a player in this position, it can feel like the world is just falling apart around you because it's not going well.
A cycle of life, isn't it? When Mentalist had his major debut, it was back in Tokoname in 2019, and he was the young 19-year-old at the time. Now the tables have turned and he's leading this ragtag band of Southeast Asian and Oceanic players to a major.
It was when he was with Aerowolf, right? And they beat Giants so hard that they literally stole the organization.
That's right.
That's
That
correct,
is
if I
right.
remember correctly, is they beat the EU Giants so bad that Vodafone Giants stood back and they're like, we'll take the other guys. Yeah, we'll take them.
That's crazy.
That was actually a point of pride in my career because Aerowolf had been around for so long and had been inarguably the most successful Southeast Asian team, and I'd never been able to cast them up to that point. And that was, as far as I can recall, was the first and only time I ever got to cast them was at Tokoname. And I mean, sometimes we have to set aside what we do as a job and just kind of revel in like the history and the mystique of some of these players, because at our core, we are fans of this game. Even if it is our job, sometimes it's nice to be able to put our words to historic moments, just as we saw with GK.
That's very well put. Speaking of history, this is a classic from SSG, if you watched it before. A Monty or an Osa on the Akos balcony walks in with the shield, establishes the plant. You gotta make sure there's nobody downstairs. You gotta EMP or shoot the C4 midair, and then go for that plant attempt.
What kind of denial is there? A C4?
EMP?
The C4 detonates just before the EMP detonates. And that means hot and cold. He's taken down Diffuser on the floor. Talon shields destroyed along with him. However, the round is not over yet. Just because the rush has failed, Ashen fires up for 1. And the numbers are even.
Right, the round's not over, but it's gonna be a pivot here from SSG. They gotta change everything around. The plan can no longer be attempted. They gotta go for kills and map control now. Take Office, take Fountain, take Archives, and go for a different approach here.
You have limited options when you've gone all in on one way, but the good news is Space Station has good gunners. So even if they themselves aren't the best strategically, they can still hit their marks. Mentalist with the drive-by onto Forest as now Ashen walks in. Turdsta eliminates him. No drone work to be done. Final 30 seconds. Turdsta holding court inside of Archives.
It doesn't take much, it seems, for Turdsta. He simply makes Archives his own. He will have to win a single 1v1. No, not if Mentalist steals it from him. And there's the energy we were looking for from Bleed. They're once again within touching distance of their opponents, just trailing a single round behind. But that match point is feeling further away than ever for SSG.
It's crazy to think that about 0.5 seconds changed the entire outcome of that round. If the MP had gone out a little bit earlier, or C4 tossed a little bit later, that plan guaranteed goes down, in my book at least. That enables the post plant in a 5v5, which heavily, so heavily, favors the attackers of SSG. So such a small thing with a massive impact in the round, but Bleed had a good read that the shut down the plan, adaptation, the rotation, and they played together in that 2v1 as well. Yes, Mentis went for the swing, but Turkstaff, the anchor on the bomb side, picking things up. Mentis with a disgusting wallbang on the Forest as well. We're almost tied up. It's 4-5 now, still in favor of SSG.
I mean, I think I'll say this. Looking at the maps that we have right in front of us, Border is a brawl-heavy map. We expect there to be lots of gunfights. Both of these teams are so proficient at taking engagements. Both of these teams are so good that when the going gets tough, as we saw in the previous round, you can still mostly shoot your way out of it. Cafe is going to be a completely different ballgame, as will Consulate if we need it. The fact that on Space Station's map, Bleed is keeping it this close is a bit of a worrying sign if I'm Space Station. But SSG have been here before.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to talk about the entirety of SSG's performance through this entire tourney, it's been worrisome. Because every single time it looks like Space Station is on the ropes, they manage to fight their way off of them.
Yep.
They've got their hands full right now with Bleed, but honestly, Bleed are another team that they are always keeping pace with their opponents.
It's true, and just to raise the stakes here for SSG, this is their map pick, of course, anyone can see that, but what you might not realize that this year, SSG's tied most banned map as Cafe, and that's where Bleed have decided to take us. They nearly beat Dark Zero on it yesterday, and they will have learned a lot from that 7-8 experience. So for me, it's all the more important that SSG win this map to stay alive in the BO3. Otherwise, frankly, there is a reality here where Bleed go 2-0.
You don't want to be a North American team and a North American major and not making top 8 playing in front of the crowd, because that's your dream, that's your goal, and it should be. And Forrest, he hears that and says, you know what, I'm going to get that over and kill it, put me one round closer, at least put me an advantage in this round to get closer to win this map.
He immediately jumps straight back out the window as well. He might be low HP. Same can be said for Ashen, but he's like, okay, I got my pick and I'm out. But Bleed could very quickly even up this numbers advantage if they can find these two low HP players. So SSG, the onus is on them to slow down.
Yeah. Resets, regain intel, and stabilize.
Good drone.
Very good intel, I would say, all across the board. Only 2 drones dead as well from SSG, so they got intel to work with, but likewise, Bleed, they got the default cameras, got the pulse scanner as well, but only 1 C4 to work with on the verticality.
Surveying for hostiles.
I really like whether you had the Solus on the side of SSG or now the Pulse on the side of Bleed, how well these teams are playing this off-site information game. And it's nice that this has been introduced, especially with Solus. And we've now seen more Valkyries, more Pulses over the course of this event being deliberately placed just to thwart whatever execute might come out.
Turtsa is still being droned here. Finally spots it in time. But SSG have plenty of information. It looks like Bleed are taking a leaf out of SSG's book. They're playing the late round very passively. They failed to even up that numbers advantage. Hot and Cold still above, but his nades find nothing. However, J9 knows DMR opens up the equation to kill onto Turtsa. 3v5, becoming a 2v5 so swiftly now for Bleed as False forces down that diffuser. Could it be a flawless round? Reap says, hold that for a second. The diffuser still being planted. Reaps with it all to do. And round in the corner, he cannot stand up against the might of J9O. Infallible this game. And match point is on the cards for SSG.
Oh, what a great round from them as well. The intel that the drones were just so precise, always having the exact location of the pulse, knowing whether or not he's in the scanner, not down to the C4s. And then, I mean, yeah, Reeps missed a shot onto the passive player from Space Station, but it didn't matter. The execute was from office hatch down to bathroom, get that diffuser planted, and then the crossfires are established for the post plant. There's no way back for the retake, and Bleed, well, they look completely locked out of that round.
I swear, if SSG win this game, I think that they'll need to start paying me money, because I think I've casted them like 10 times. Every time they have a hard-fought victory, every single time I cast them, and more often than not, it's against my APAC homies.
Oh, man.
I mean, that's fine, but SSG, mate, I'm here for it.
We were saying the same thing about Wolves yesterday. Well, I think every time we've casted Wolves, I think they've won, and you and I have actually casted like every single Wolves match. I think at SI we followed Wolves. I think at Copenhagen we followed Wolves. We've been there with them through all of it. And I guess like we're good voodoo magic, I suppose, with them, right?
Except against GK, I guess.
We're good luck. Sorry?
Except just earlier today, I guess.
I mean, sometimes plot armor only goes so far. There is fatal weaponry out there, and in this particular case, they had their hands full. But I mean, it's nice to follow these teams. It's nice to see their successes and sometimes their failures.
Well, you could say that Bleed has had a lot of plot armor this tournament with all of the upsets, with the amazing narrative that they have spearheaded for themselves with Fish, the Fish, Joel himself. But will that stop here against SSG? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you bleed, you gotta worry about the long term here, right? The second, the third map, but of course you're not out of this just yet. Just don't knock yourself down too hard mentally if you're gonna lose out on border. They're defending right now. They got the layers, they got the roam, they got the extension set up, but there is one big factor to this round, I think. Hot and Cold brought out that very niche operative Nuke. Hot and Cold, one of the best Nuke players in the world by my count. He's always finding the gaps and finding those picks. The upside down repels out of this door. It's a bit of a positive one on break door, but hey,
He's got
might
it.
get punished. Yep, that's free.
Tursta gets one on the run out, and no more than that. And Ashen again, first to die, though it's been quite a while since he was unfortunately on the wrong side of an initial engagement.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how Bliss will play, Bleed will play this now. SSG are actually starting to force a plant down. Is there any information on this? Bleed, where are you? Forrest is knocking at the door. Actually, he's tearing it down. Aspie finds one, but the trade comes through swiftly from Fultz. A nigh impossible post-plant as Hot and Cold is hunted and taken down. Jane, I know, has been so good in this match, and now him and Fultz will have to cover. The DMR is perfect! SSG out of absolutely no